How's it going, boys? Johnny Superb Man here, and it's time for another NHL 15 shootout commentary. But this time, we're going to talk only about the NHL, have footage on in the background, but tonight's going to be a big night for hockey, so I want to talk about multiple teams here. I don't know which game to watch. Maybe you guys can give me a suggestion, but you got Ottawa versus New York. I know Ottawa's trying to make it into the playoffs. The New York Rangers already won the President's Trophy, right? So maybe Ottawa can get a W in that game. Montreal and Detroit. Detroit's got their playoff streak on the line. They're not in just yet. Montreal is. Boston versus Florida. Boston is fighting for their playoff lives. Are the Florida Panthers going to be able to play spoiler? That could be an easy game for Boston if Florida doesn't try. You got the Winnipeg Jets versus the Colorado Avalanche. The Winnipeg Jets trying to secure that playoffs position. The LA Kings versus the Calgary Flames. That's a huge game tonight. I think Calgary can clinch a playoff spot, and if LA doesn't win, they're out of the playoffs. So that might be the game to keep an eye on. And also the Vancouver Canucks versus the Arizona Coyotes. Vancouver can also clinch a playoff spot. So tonight, 6 games, a lot of big ones, and I want to talk about the Eastern Conference playoff race right now because it is a shootout between 5 teams. The Detroit Red Wings, the New York Islanders, the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Boston Bruins, and the Ottawa Senators. We'll talk a little bit about the Western Conference in a bit, but I want to focus on the Eastern Conference right here. And to be honest, guys, I have no clue who's going to make it in the playoffs right now. Every single one of these teams have played 80 games played before tonight's games. Detroit's got 97 points. The Islanders have 98 points. Pittsburgh's got 96 points, and Boston and Ottawa both have 95 points, all right? So 2 games in hand for every single one of these teams. Each one of them can make the playoffs. Each one of them can miss the playoffs. So when it comes to choosing which team is going to get in and which team's not going to get in, it's hard. I had to go ahead and look at their remaining 2 games, right? And we'll start with the Ottawa Senators. They have to face the New York Rangers tonight and the Philadelphia Flyers in their last game of the season. Now, tonight I think is going to be the hardest game. That game where they faced the Pittsburgh Penguins, and they came back from 3-0. That was one of the most exciting games I've seen all year. And as an older watcher of the NHL, it's really hard to watch regular season games now because I know how intense and how exciting playoff games can be. And when you're waiting for those kind of games all year round, and I mean, I'm a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, so I haven't seen exciting hockey for a while. It really just rejuvenated my interest in hockey. I mean, I'm watching games, but I couldn't take my eyes away from this game. We were watching this game and chatting in the chat box on my website, and my God, when the Ottawa Senators tied it and won in overtime, we all blew up. It was so, I just had goosebumps just thinking about it right now, right? So I'm kind of cheering for the Ottawa Senators. I know I shouldn't say that. I'm a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, but I'm a hockey fan first and foremost, and I love underdog teams. That's why I'm cheering for the Winnipeg Jets, the Calgary Flames, the Ottawa Senators. You know, these teams were written off the beginning part of the year and midway through the year, even a few weeks ago. So I really want these guys to make it into the playoffs. I want to see a new team win the Stanley Cup this year. So the Ottawa Senators, you know, they got by the Pittsburgh Penguins. It would have been nice if they could have taken them in regulation. That would have really hurt Pittsburgh, right? But they got the W, which is nice. There's 4 more remaining points. They can get up to 99, but they got to beat the Rangers. And I think they can beat the Rangers because the Rangers have already won the Presidents. So, you know, they could even scratch some of their top players if some injuries are nagging them to give them some rest before the playoffs. You could see that happen, right? So I think it's a winnable game for Ottawa against the Rangers, and then against the Philadelphia Flyers, another winnable game. So Ottawa can get to 99 points. I think Ottawa can make the playoffs, but it's a big game tonight. You move on to the Detroit Red Wings, their final 2 games against the Montreal Canadiens and the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, Montreal Canadiens, they've clinched the playoff spot, but still, that could be a tough game for the Detroit Red Wings. And the Carolina Hurricanes, I want Carolina to win just because I don't want the Toronto Maple Leafs to catch them and get the 5th overall pick and maybe drop back to 6th, right? I want to get 4th and maybe drop back to 5. That's okay for me. But Carolina, they could be trying to lose. So I think Detroit might be able to, I think they'll take 2 points for sure. The Montreal game is going to be the big one for the Detroit Red Wings. Their 24-year playoff run is on the line, right? Let's see if they can get by the Montreal Canadiens and get 2 points. Doesn't matter if they take it to overtime. They need 4 points, though, out of the last 2 games. The Pittsburgh Penguins, you know, I don't want to see the Pittsburgh Penguins make the playoffs. I don't. Even though they have some good players on that team. I really like Crosby. I really like Malkin. All right, but like I said before, I'm an underdog cheer. And the Pittsburgh Penguins are kind of like the evil empire. They have all these studs. They've won the Stanley Cup back in 08. They made the, or 09, they made the finals in 08, back-to-back years, right? And they've kind of been on a slide ever since with the playoff failures. And this would just be, I mean, I can see the Pittsburgh Penguins having some major changes in the offseason if they miss the playoffs, right? So I want to see Pittsburgh miss, and to me, they have a tough schedule here. Yes, they have the Buffalo Sabres as their last game of the season, right? But they have to go up against the New York Islanders, and the Islanders are also fighting for their playoff lives right now. So that could be a really tough game against the Pittsburgh Penguins, the next one against the Islanders. And if they lose in regulation to the Islanders, then they're sitting with 96 points with one game remaining, and I don't know if that's enough to get into the playoffs if the Ottawa Senators, Detroit Red Wings, Boston Bruins, and the Islanders all win, right? That's why it's a crazy race right now. You lose one game, the other 4 teams are getting points or beating you or winning games, and they're moving past you, right? So every team here, you want to make the playoffs, you got to take 3 points, man. You have to take 3 points. Ottawa's got to get 4. Boston might have to get 4 as well, but Pittsburgh, they got to get 3 points at least out of the Islanders and Buffalo. The Boston Bruins, they have to face the Florida Panthers. I think they can beat them because Florida's not making the playoffs. I don't see them playing spoiler against the Boston Bruins. They could. I would love it if Florida Panthers could beat them in regulation. The tough game for Boston is going to come against the Tampa Bay Lightning, the last game of the season for them. Tampa Bay, you know, they playoff team, yes, maybe they won't have any positional changes in the standings, right? But I think any playoff team in the Eastern Conference wants to make sure the Boston Bruins don't make it into the playoffs because they're that kind of team that can turn it on in the playoffs. Good goaltender, physical team. You don't want to face them, right? So get them out of here. Tampa Bay Lightning could do themselves a big favor getting the Boston Bruins out because if you're the Tampa Bay Lightning, think about it. Would you rather go up against Boston in the playoffs or the Ottawa Senators, right? I pick Ottawa as well. Even though they're playing good right now, I still wouldn't want to face Boston, all right? So that could be a tough game for Boston. And last but not least, the New York Islanders. You know, these guys seemed like they're in. They got 98 points, so all they need is 1 or 2 points. It seems like they'll get in with 99 or 100 points, right? If the Pittsburgh Penguins lose. And that's why the next game between Pittsburgh and the Islanders is a major game, all right? Basically, whoever takes that game, if it's an overtime loss for the for the New York Islanders, they're still in a good spot because their last game of the season is then up against the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are on fire right now. So that might be tough, but they'll have 99 points. What they don't want to do is lose in regulation to Pittsburgh because then they only have 98 points with 1 game remaining, tied with Pittsburgh, who has 98 points, and Pittsburgh would then have 40 wins in regulation or overtime, while the Islanders would only have 39, right? So Islanders, they got to get a point out of Pittsburgh and then another point out of Columbus. You're in the playoffs. So it's a tough final 2 games for all those 5 teams, boys. I don't know, man. If I got to choose the team that I don't want to make it into the playoffs right now, I got to say the Pittsburgh Penguins. I wouldn't mind seeing Boston in there, right? But if Ottawa, Detroit, Boston, and the Islanders could make it in, and the Pittsburgh Penguins could make it, could miss the playoffs, that would be hilarious for me. So I'd love to see that, all right? There's my opinions on the Eastern Conference. I want to hear what you guys have to say as well. And in the West, it's a little bit easier. I think the West is set, except for that final wild card spot. You got the LA Kings with 93 points, Calgary with 95, and Winnipeg with 96. It really comes down to the LA King game versus the Calgary Flame game tonight. It's a huge freaking game. Like I said, LA, if they don't win, they're out of the playoffs. Calgary can clinch the playoffs with a win themselves, right? And after the Calgary Flames, the LA Kings have San Jose. And San Jose, let's say LA beats Calgary tonight. San Jose could still play major spoiler against the LA Kings from the comeback that they had last year, right? So San Jose could be a tough game for LA, and the Calgary game is going to be a tough game. So LA's got a major uphill battle right here. And also the Calgary Flames have to face the Winnipeg Jets as well. But that game might be meaningless. It won't be meaningless if Calgary loses to LA in regulation tonight. Then it does become a huge game, but I think Calgary, you got to do it tonight, man. You got the LA Kings on the ropes. Same thing with the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Boston Bruins over in the Eastern Conference. You don't want the LA Kings getting into the playoffs, all right? You just don't. Look what they did last year when their backs were against the wall, down 3-0 to San Jose. They come back and they win the Stanley Cup. They're that kind of team. You have a chance right now, Calgary. Get them out of there, right? I don't want to see the same teams winning the Stanley Cup. I want this to be a wild year. Maybe the Islanders win the Cup, right? Maybe Nashville wins the Cup. Maybe Calgary, maybe Montreal, maybe Ottawa. I want to see a new team that hasn't won the Stanley Cup in the last 7 years take it home this year. All right, boys, so you got to pick a game tonight. Which game do you guys want to watch? I'm going to be in the website chat box tonight. Which game should we watch? I'm thinking Calgary, LA is a must-watch, and I'm stuck. I gotta watch Ottawa versus New York, boys. That last game between Pittsburgh was so damn entertaining. I think I gotta watch Ottawa versus New York. But I'll keep Montreal, Detroit, and Boston and Florida on in the background, alright? So there you go, boys. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys in the next one.